In a town built on fake smiles, back-patting, and publicists whispering sweet nothings, Bill Burr operates like a truth-seeking missile that's permanently locked onto absurdity. He's an equal opportunity offender, a master of the verbal takedown, and the hilarious, cranky UNC the entire entertainment industry seems to love. The thing is, he doesn't reserve his special brand of comedic destruction for his enemies. Oh no, he unleashes it on his friends, his colleagues, podcast hosts, and basically anyone who wanders into his line of fire. If you're in a room with Bill Burr, no one is safe. Bill Maher. We have to start with the king of condescension himself, Bill Maher. Maher invited Burr on his podcast, Club Random, probably expecting a meeting of two like-minded, witty minds. What he got was a masterclass in being humbled on his own show. The tension was palpable from the jump, starting with a simple observation about their outfits.
Like slacks were still a thing.
These are not
No, but slacks were a thing.
No, I look good. That's the difference.
Maher tries to position himself as effortlessly cool, and Burr immediately flips it, painting Maher as a guy desperately trying to look like a respectable citizen pleading his case in traffic court. It's a classic Burr move. Take the opponent's premise and beat them over the head with it. But Maher, being Maher, just couldn't help himself. He had to use his $10 words.
Yes, they always, one reason they are prima inter pares among rock gods.
You can see the moment Maher's brain short-circuits. He's so used to being the smartest guy in the room that he has no defense for someone calling out his intellectual peacocking. Burr doesn't just make fun of the words. He deconstructs the entire persona, painting this hilarious picture of Maher in a smoking jacket, trying to impress people at his fancy parties. The destruction was so total, so absolute, that Burr delivered a final devastating blow that left Maher speechless.
Mainly, I fly commercial.
Well, you're an idiot.
Oof, checkmate. There's no coming back from that. Let's move on and call the paramedics for a third-degree burn. Joe Rogan. If Bill Maher is the pseudo-intellectual, Joe Rogan is the king of the podcast bros. And when Burr stepped into the JRE studio during the pandemic, it was inevitable that sparks would fly. Rogan, ever the provocateur, tried to poke the bear on the subject of masks. It did not go well for him.
Whole time there's been assholes on my street walking around no masks.
You want people to walk down the street with a mask on?
Let's not start this, Joe.
Do you though?
Let's not start this. Okay.
Burr refuses to get dragged into a debate where, as he points out, neither of them are qualified to speak. He then proceeds to mock Rogan's entire tough guy aesthetic, from the cigar to the American flag. It's a brilliant dismantling of the "I'm just asking questions" vibe. But the best part is when Rogan admits he thought he had the virus himself.
In the sauna.
And then you felt bad about yourself, and then you attack people with masks.
He calls him out for having a panic attack, and then projecting that fear onto people who were just trying to be safe. It's a perfect example of how Burr uses humor to cut right to the psychological core of an issue. Jokes. He's performing a comedic psychoanalysis, and Rogan was his patient for the day. Theo Von and Bobby Lee. Some people just radiate nervous energy, and for Bill Burr, that's like blood in the water. Theo Von and Bobby Lee are two of the most delightfully strange and anxious comedians out there, and when they got one-on-one time with Bill, he feasted on their discomfort. With Theo, it started when Bill was trying to make a simple reference to an old TV show.
On yours or no?
On what?
In your, you don't? You would have a gun? I don't think it's
You can feel Bill's frustration boiling over. He calls out Theo's classic comic ADD, where they're too cool to engage with something they don't immediately get. But the peak of the awkwardness came from a question so out of left field, Bill couldn't believe it was real. The way he just deadpans is so much more devastating than yelling. And then there's Bobby Lee. The entire podcast episode is basically Bill just reacting to Bobby's chaotic energy. Bill just sits back and lets Bobby's anxiety do all the work. He points out how squirrely Bobby is, basically holding up a mirror to his friend's frantic energy. Later, when Bobby points...
Yeah, I'm fine. I don't know what the...
You think you're just projecting all your uncomfortableness on me? I'm not doing anything.
You are extra squirrely, like squirmy.
Puts out a minor injury on his foot. Bill uses it as an opportunity to deliver a hilarious life lesson. It's brutal, it's funny, and it's weirdly insightful. That's the Bill Burr trifecta. Conan O'Brien. Bill has been on Conan's show and podcast more times than I can count, and their dynamic is one of a kind. Conan, the lanky, polite, Harvard-educated host, and Bill, the loud, abrasive Boston comic. Bill loves to poke holes in Conan's friendly persona, often by reminding him and the audience just how ridiculously wealthy he is. He never lets Conan get too comfortable in the host role. He's constantly reminding him that he sees through the whole charade. He treats him less like a TV icon and more like that rich friend you love to give a hard time to. The Kill Tony incident. Okay, so usually Bill is the one dishing out the punishment, but on an episode of the live podcast Kill Tony, where new comics get 1 minute to perform, he turned his cannons on the judges. A new comedian came up, the room wasn't feeling it, and he bombed. Hard. The panel of judges, including host Tony Hinchcliffe, started piling on. Bill was not having it.
Joke, if you could like stand up and salute me real quick. Just do it. Okay. Oh, thanks so much. That was really nice of him. It's all
Completely flips the script. Instead of joining the roast, he becomes the guy's defender. He calls out the impossible situation they put the comedian in and shames the whole panel for being bullies. When another guest tells him he's getting cranky, Bill makes it clear he's just sticking up for the guy. This moment is so fascinating because it reveals the code behind Burr's comedy. It might be brutal, but it's rarely aimed at the powerless. Here he sees a bunch of established comics picking on a nobody, and his instinct is to protect the underdog. It's a rare glimpse of the surprising morality behind the rage. Kevin Hart and Jon Lovitz. If you think Bill goes easy on his friends, you are sorely mistaken. When he appeared on Kevin Hart's Heart to Heart, Kevin tried to butter him up, calling him a true friend. Bill immediately called him out. The whole interview is just Bill gently but hilariously reminding Kevin that he's become this massive corporate entity. The best part is when Kevin congratulates him on having another kid. His relationship with Jon Lovitz, however, is pure, unadulterated, old-school best friend hatred. When Lovitz was on Bill's podcast, it was a non-stop barrage of insults from the moment it started. And Bill gives it right back, hitting Lovitz with some of the most creatively mean jokes you've ever heard. It's that kind of dark, savage humor that can only exist between two people who genuinely love each other. They're speaking a language of insults that's been refined over decades of friendship, and it is glorious to watch. Howie Mandel. Howie Mandel invited Bill onto his podcast, Howie Mandel Does Stuff, and seemed to think he could play the "Why don't you love me?" card. He tried to guilt Bill for never casting him in anything. Bill, of course, was having none of it. That is such a cold, hard truth of Hollywood, delivered with zero sugarcoating. But the absolute highlight of the episode was when Howie, with immense pride, brought out a plaque for hitting 100,000 YouTube subscribers. He just cannot handle the sincerity of it. He roasts the plaque, the concept of the plaque, and the children who probably had to mine the aluminum for it. To add insult to injury, Howie brought out Bill's look-alike and supposed half-brother, which Bill did not take lightly. Bill later exposes Howie's whole game that he creates these awkward moments for content and then forgets about them 2 minutes later while staring at his YouTube plaques. Ouch. Sarah Silverman and Leah Delaria. Sometimes the destruction is less about a witty comeback and more about surviving a deeply uncomfortable moment. On Sarah Silverman's show, she tried to psychoanalyze their friendship, claiming Bill secretly loves her because he texts her after they fight. Bill's reaction is pure, visceral cringe. He literally shrinks into his chair, trying to physically escape the conversation. He looks like a hostage trying to blink out a distress signal in Morse code. He completely shuts down her premise, turning her attempt at a cute, quirky analysis into a truly awkward moment. It was a similar vibe with Orange is the New Black star Leah Delaria on Conan. She tried to get Bill to help her show off her tattoos, framing it as him being a gentleman. Bill wasn't playing along. He went straight for the jugular with a joke about her love life. It was so fast and so brutal that all Leah could do was laugh. That's the thing with Burr. He's so quick. You don't even realize you've been hit until you hear the audience roaring. Nia Renee Hill, his wife. You'd think the one person safe from the wrath of Burr would be his own wife, the lovely and talented Nia Renee Hill, but you'd be wrong. On Bill's podcast, Nia often plays the straight voice of reason to Bill's lunatic rants, and he gives her absolutely no special treatment. Listening to Bill's podcast whenever Nia is on is like being a fly on the wall of the funniest, most dysfunctional therapy session ever. He twists her reasonable points into pretzel logic until she's left speechless. It's the ultimate proof of his comedic philosophy. If the argument is funny, it doesn't matter who it's with. The joke is king, and everyone, even the person you share a bed with, is a potential subject. Bill Burr is a master of the comedic takedown. It's not for everyone, but in a world that often feels overly polished and fake, there's something incredibly refreshing about someone who refuses to play the game. He's a comedic purist, and we love him for it. Who do you think got it the worst? Was it Bill Maher's ego, Howie Mandel's plaque, or Joe Rogan's elk-fueled panic attack? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want more deep dives into celebrity culture, make sure you hit that subscribe button. See you next time.